All right, thanks everybody. I'm going to use the mic because there's just a lot of background noise in the last session and I couldn't really hear the presenters as well. So I'm Paul Hickey, I'm CEO of Data Driven Design. We're a very small, scrappy digital marketing agency. We build websites, we build custom software. We use data to help small business owners make design and marketing decisions because small business owners and even mid-size level company marketers really don't have that much time, they don't have that much budget, and it's just a common problem that when you don't use data, you tend to look at opinions, and opinions slow you down. And if you can get down to what Google Analytics tells you what to do, that's a free tool. There's a lot of free tools out there. Facebook Business Manager can tell you a lot of good data. And so we started looking at data around voice a couple years ago, and we saw just the same stuff that we've all seen here at Project Voice, but the rise of smart speaker purchasing and usage and the breakdown between Alexa and Google Assistant. And so as an agency, we made a decision to get into voice. Actually, one of the first things we did was we went to VaynerMedia's VoiceCon in New York, and we learned a lot from them. And then we put an implementation plan ourselves for how are we gonna launch voice to our clientele, mainly in the South, the Middle Tennessee area, but we have clients all over the country, all over the US. And the first thing we did was build a skill for all of our clients to use called Ask Data Driven Design, where they can ask Data Driven Design how their web traffic is doing, give them a premium Alexa skill with account linking and sending them an Echo Dot that's branded with our company information on it. And then the second thing we did, which is actually way bigger than that, is start the Nashville Voice Conference, because we had had a lot of success teaching small business owners digital marketing tactics, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, Facebook Business Manager, and voice needed to really be taught to people. So the unique thing about the Nashville Voice Conference is nobody knows anything about voice from an attendee perspective. They want to know about voice. They want to come and they want to maybe learn how to build voice apps. They might want to implement it in their instructional programs. I'm really excited that there's schools here, because I think schools and people like Julie and like gentlemen from MTSU are the perfect people to bring groups of people to the Nashville Voice Conference to learn about voice. So I'm excited that you guys are here to learn about that. So it's really about incorporating voice in business use. It's not so much around gaming or recreational use. It's really not pie in the sky stuff. Like Project Voice has done a great job kind of diversifying the content, and I think that there's some momentum around voice that's really more pie in the sky and dreamy and more around products. And the Nashville Voice Conference is really like, how can we implement a skill or an action right now that is going to help us do a specific thing? And we just either don't know how to do it, or we know that there's a possibility to do it and we know that it can be low lift. We don't know what it is. And so businesses, entrepreneurs, startup founders, marketers, people in the educational field come to the Nashville Voice Conference and learn. So our team is from all over the world. I live in Valencia, Spain, although I lived in Nashville for 10 years. We have people in Miami and in Seattle. We have 4 team members in Nashville. That's why we chose Nashville for the Nashville Voice Conference, because we really have a lot of contacts there. And we started a voice conference because I mentioned the data around it. And the opportunity to sharpen our digital strategy craft is something that we're really passionate about. So we can't teach anything unless we know it inside and out. And the best way to be really good at it for our clients is to know it inside and out. So the whole education piece with the conference really ties in well with our business goals and our culture and our company. So teaching and helping educate businesses, but also people who might want to be a VUI designer. That's a new career path, right? That's part of why we're all here too. And so last year at the Nashville Voice Conference, we had some people that were looking to get into that profession. And so whether they be current students or people out of school looking to change profession or grow their skills, this is a great conference for them. So it's an opportunity for all of us to become leaders in the voice business, the people I just mentioned from an attendee perspective, and of course us as a company. So I'm gonna skip the data slide because I think we all really know the data, but that's the main reason why we started the Nashville Voice Conference. I won't skip it completely, I'll just kind of quickly go through it. So as of a year ago, and I'm excited to learn more from Brett tomorrow, from voicebot.ai, but he published a report that more than 50 million smart speaker users in the world, and that they were increasing 15% each month. So that's kind of a wow factor for small business owners and people in the education field to pay attention to. And then in 2018, businesses reported a 43% increase in revenue 9 months after launching an Alexa-enabled product, and a 53% boost on average almost immediately after incorporating an Alexa skill into their current product. So a lot for businesses to get into from a voice app standpoint. 54% of professionals surveyed by business.com said they'd use Alexa in the workplace to increase productivity. So at the Nashville Voice Conference, we talk about Alexa for Business. What is Alexa for Business? It's very cool. I'm actually I could go on for days about Alexa for Business. So voice, this is a big thing because, like I mentioned, we do a lot of digital marketing workshops at Data Driven Design for free, just getting in front of 15 to 20 interested business people. And the number one thing is okay, is this another thing that we all have to do? Do we have to be on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, and now voice? And the answer is, if you design it properly to help your operations and solve a problem that you already have, and maybe solve a problem for your audience, then voice doesn't and shouldn't be just another thing that you have to do. It should actually make your operations and your marketing and your content creation, I don't want to say easier, but more efficient and effective. So voice should not replace anything, and it should just supplement and enhance a business's current experience. And so one of the biggest things I was really proud of is kind of the diversity and the age range of people at the Nashville Voice Conference last year. We had an 11-year-old boy from Atlanta, Georgia. His father and him were taking kind of a summer RV trip around the country together. And so I connected with his dad on Twitter because his dad has an Alexa skill and he's in the fintech space. And he said, could I bring he's like, I want to come, but my 11-year-old wants to come, and we happen to be in an RV together traveling the country. Could he come? He builds Alexa skills for his class projects. So I about fell out of my chair. I was like, this is perfect. Yes, please bring him. And so that was really enough for me to say hey, small business owners, I know you're scared of this, but you have an 11-year-old here and he's building Alexa skills for his class projects. So you probably need to look out and pay attention for this, and also get his information, because you're probably going to want to try to hire him. And so it's really the same way that your business has a website or a mobile app. I've talked about voice-based websites a lot as a low-lift way for small businesses to get into the voice space. So I just want to quickly recap 2019 and then talk about what's coming up on August 7th, 2020. Nashville Voice Conference 2020 will be at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. So we had, again, the youngest attendee was 11-year-olds. This is Dan Winterberg on the left and his father, Bill. We had 80 business people that attended, and we set it up into workshops, practical and tactical workshops. So we literally did a 10-minute keynote, and then it was okay, we're gonna work. We're gonna show you how to do things. We're gonna answer your questions. We had 15 industry-leading presenters. So you might recognize some of these people. Bradley Metrock was one of our presenters. Stuart Crane from Engaged by Voice. This is Audrey Wu, who founded a company called Converge, and then they were acquired by a company called Haptic. She came in from California. We raised $3,500 for charity. All the proceeds of the event go to an amazing organization called Corner to Corner. They have a phenomenal entrepreneurship program in Nashville, and youth reading program, and a youth, I don't want to call it a nutrition program, it's an after-school baking program, but it's really cool. So all the money went to them. That's my wife, Kate, right there. It's not some random person kissing me on the cheek. She works for Data Driven Design, so. And then we had, how did I skip Dan Cox's slide? I thought Dan Cox is in the back of the room. Okay, here's Dan Cox. This is Dan was a superstar at the Nashville Voice Conference. He came in from LA. And he helped more than 30 flash briefings be built at the event. So I was super proud of that. Like that was like, come to the event. I mean, so that's worth the price of admission right there. The money goes to charity. You get a podcast and a flash briefing. So verticals represented, we had a ton of verticals represented. This is what happens when you work with small business owners. Like you don't work in any one particular vertical. So we had healthcare, of course, because it's Nashville. Retail, shopping, pro sports leagues, convenience stores, correctional facilities, realtors is a huge one. Home and garden, transportation, I mentioned fintech, a ton of entrepreneurs and startup founders. Digital marketers were there, which I was excited about because I'm kind of a digital marketer at my core, and they wanted to learn about voice and how it would help them be better digital marketers. SaaS companies, social media agencies, again, so digital marketers, e-commerce brands, public relations professionals, and fitness brands. Dan Cox in the back, you're the fitness brands. The content covered, we talked about voice-based websites. That was kind of before I had it all flushed out. I had this concept of, let's build a really simple skill that kind of gives people the information that you would get if you went to their website. And then now, if you didn't go to my earlier presentation today, you can go to thevoicedesigner.com and kind of see what I really mean about a voice-based website. We talked about Alexa skills versus Google Actions. Again, this was in July of 2019. Alexa for Business, which again, we're going to talk more about that at Nashville Voice Conference 2020. That's where you can build a private skill, and your IT department can manage who has access to your private skill, and they can manage company-issued devices, and they can manage personal devices that have access to company content, all from the back end of their AWS platform. So there's a ton of opportunities there to make businesses more efficient from like a voice-based intranet, voice-based training that only people from their company have access to. We talked about creating content for voice was a big topic, voice in healthcare. Actually, Reed McClellan, who's up after me, was at the Nashville Voice Conference as one of our presenters for the voice in healthcare. So if you guys are around this area, you should come check him out later this afternoon because he did an amazing job. Create your own Alexa flash briefing, which Dan helped with, and then voice enable your data and apps. So a few cool things. Marcus Whitney was our keynote speaker. He's like a amazing Nashville-based entrepreneur. And he came in and just basically said, I don't know anything about how to build a voice app or anything like that, but I know that like everyone here is going to need voice, and it's happening, and it's the future. It's not the future, but it's like the now and the future. And Marcus said something that like it just like made my day. He said, this feels like what South by Southwest felt like in 2007. And he went there in 2007. And I just thought that was a huge compliment from Marcus. Will Acuff, who's an amazing philanthropist and businessman in Nashville. He's the man in the middle there. He runs Corner to Corner. And he said it was the most diverse entrepreneurial event he'd ever attended. To tell you what kind of a PR guy I am, he just whispered that in my ear, and then I plastered it all over our website. So, but I'm a good friend of Will's, so I don't think he'll kill me for that. And so I'm proud of that one. And then Bryn Plummer, who's the VP of Inclusion and Community Relations at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, she's amazing. She was a featured facilitator of the workshop that Dan kind of ran with the flash briefings. And we had the event at Thistle Farms last year, and then Bryn called me afterwards and said, you need to have it at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center this year. So we're working with Bryn on that. And she made a really good point. She said that, and this is how I feel, honestly, sometimes. She went in with this abstract idea of what it meant to be like in voice, right? And honestly, a lot of that content is kind of floating around. But then she walked away from our conference with like actual ideas and ways to implement voice, and realized that it was like pretty low lift, like not very expensive, and putting the tools to use. I already mentioned Dan from metcon.com and imwealthy.com. Just a great guy who helped a lot of our entrepreneurs and startup founders get like their podcast going. He has a couple podcasts, and so he's really great at helping them create content, and he's coming back this year in 2020. That's why I keep mentioning him. And then Audrey Wu did a good job kind of explaining the difference between Google Actions and Alexa skills, really from like a developer standpoint and a user standpoint. So let's talk about the Nashville Voice Conference 2020. The general framework we're going to go with this year, we're going to have 125 people. We're going to have a strategy group and a tactical group. So the strategy group is going to go through and we're going to kind of bucket out business owners, executives, marketers, and entrepreneurs to help them understand like what kinds of voice apps they should build. And then the tactical group is going to be your VUI, VUX designers, developers, and content creators, and we're going to actually do things with them, build skills, probably, and hopefully voice flow will come. If any of you in here can go talk to Braden, Emily, and Mark and just tell, they're gonna hate, they already hate me because I keep talking to them about it. But we'll probably do like a voice flow workshop, an engage by voice workshop, a voice designer workshop, a flash briefing workshop for those people. And then I'll take you real quick to the content. I think I've got time before, and I know you guys are probably trying to get to other stuff, so I'll try to keep it pretty brief. But I want to bring up real quick the schedule. Okay, so we're still fleshing this out because the event's not until August 7th. But we're going to start with the keynote, and one of the pieces of feedback we got from last year was just a little bit more time for networking. People wanted to talk to each other, and I get that. So I get like real into let's learn this and get geeky about that, but people really want to network, so we're going to give them more time. So networking from 9 to 9:45, opening keynote for about 30 minutes, and then go into the workshops and go. So we're going to break down the strategy group and the tactical group into actual like vertical specific content, and we're going to hit on finance, healthcare, publishing, entertainment and music, services, and e-commerce. And if you're really kind of following me, like that's everything in the world. So like it's really just a way to kind of market to specific people and say like, yes, this is for you, because it really is for and there is going to be content for everyone. And then we're going to have a lunch and sponsor expo. We provided lunch last year. We're going to do that again this year. And then another vertical track in the back end. So that's going to be more for, again, the strategy group with entrepreneurs, startups, and small businesses. We'll do probably a closing keynote this year and then a closing kind of reception for sponsors, attendees, and presenters. But over on the right, it's a little small, but I'm really proud of kind of some of the case studies that we have. So this is based on a lot of real life experience, so talked about Alexa for Business private skills, how a big pharma company used Alexa for Business to create a custom private skill to improve communications with sales reps. How the finance and banking industry is integrating voice apps to improve customer experience. How musicians and entrepreneurs need to think about using voice apps and Alexa and Google Assistant to grow and create audience connection. How the publishing industry is going to change due to voice apps. We'll do like a little create your own kind of audio book. Alexa skills with video content. So this is like a big thing obviously with the multimodal. So we'll hit on the multimodal Alexa presentation language. And we're not just going to scratch the surface, like we're going to get deep into actually building out and testing out Alexa skills on the devices using APL. We'll talk about e-commerce because that's a big topic of conversation that I've had with a lot of people. Amazon Pay. There's the term in-skill purchasing, which we need to use correctly because that's not actually buying products or services. That's like buying virtual content or like power-ups within games. And so I think it's important that like if you're a small business owner and you start to say in-skill purchasing to someone like me, I need to like synthesize that information and say what you really mean is probably Amazon Pay and like you want to sell your services and your products online. So we're going to really get into that. There's a voice domain land grab that was mentioned last year at the Nashville Voice Conference. How do you reserve your Google Action invocation? And I've personally gone in and realized that, on Alexa you can have more than one of the same invocation, but on Google Actions, I did this to myself. Like I went in and I put one in, and then I realized I wanted it to be something else. The way that I built an action was the wrong way. And so I needed to delete that one and then create a new one and use the same invocation. And I couldn't do it because it said it was already reserved, but it was me. And so then I was like, well, that's how you reserve your voice domain name. So it was like a fail that turned into a success. And then I said, all right, now we can go in and help people get like the voice domain name that they want to get now, because when Google Assistant blows up, everyone's going to want those. Okay, so turning your website into a voice app, I've talked about that a lot. We're definitely going to cover that. Why businesses need both Alexa skill and Google Action, and it's a good thing we have tools like Voice Flow and the Voice Designer that like allow you to build in one tool and then publish to both. So that's the schedule. We have one day. Why one day? That's a good question. The honest answer to why one day is because right now we're a small business. We're like a digital agency startup small business ourselves. We only have 8 people, and it's literally just us. So we have like all of our client projects. We'll try to do our team meetings right around the same time, and so we can only really afford a one-day conference at this point. But so last year I self-funded everything, and this year I would love for help from sponsors, and I would love to try to sell out as early as possible so that we have the funds to basically handle just all of our costs and then give the rest to corner this year. And then I think like if we can continue to build momentum and people want like there's actually a demand to drive it to a multi-day conference, then I'm down for growing it. Like however, this year one of the things I did was I started an advisory board. So last year it was just me, and I was having 30-minute Zoom conferences with like 500 people, like basically begging them to come, and that's how we got 80. So as we get momentum, then we could easily grow it out. And it doesn't have to be about data-driven design. So this year we did an advisory board, and so we have 6 people on the advisory board that are really gonna hopefully help us. So there's sponsorship opportunities, and they're open still, but there's gonna be some amazing value, and I'm also willing to trade services. This is all on the website, NashvilleVoiceConference.com. We're proud of a lot of the businesses already benefiting from it. Carmen Johnston Gardens is a client of ours that came last year, and she's got a skill. You can say Alexa launch Carmen Johnston Gardens, and it's a multimodal skill. So there's a lot of learning between us and small business owners like Carmen. This is Ask Data Driven Design that I mentioned earlier. This is the Voice Designer that I mentioned earlier. And now what I want to do is let's take anyone else's questions. And if you want to continue to get more information about how I'm putting content out around voice, dataoveropinions.com is where you'd want to go. And again, August 7th, 2020, save the date. And early bird registration is open now. So I believe the pricing right now is $100. And I'm going to do what I did with Will Acuff and tell you guys something that Bradley whispered in my ear. I'm just going to broadcast it out. He's like, I think he told me of like what I should be charging for this conference, and it was a lot higher. Last year was $50, and so we went up to $100 this year, and that was probably about still 20% of what Bradley said I would charge me, something like that. So I hope it's a good value, and I think like I said earlier, for all the different types of attendees, I'd love to get MTSU to bring like 5 people, right? Like pick your best 5 people, is that realistic? And then do that with like a handful of other organizations to kind of fill up the registration early on with quality people. And then everything else is gravy after that, and we have a really good conference and everybody has a lot of fun and learning. So does anyone have any questions? Dan? Here you go. In the room, yeah.
Okay. So the cool thing, and Paul isn't paying me for this, so but the cool thing about this conference is it's very tactical, right? And then we go around here, nothing wrong with this, but you're going to go home with a book full of notes and homework and go back and get with your team, implement everything. At the Nashville Voice Conference, we're literally, whatever level you're at, we're implementing things there. And so whatever your stage is, you're going to walk away with something. And it's not just having, it's not just having a skill or something to take home, but it's having that momentum of already accomplished something to then build off of. And I think that's one of the coolest things that Paul has set up is it's literally like laptops open, like work. There's it's a very, very cool, and not just in voice, but other conferences. There's very few things like that where you actually dig down and start doing and implementing while you're there. So if you're interested, it's awesome. I'll be there. Take a look.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Can you say your name again and then ask the question? Thank you.
My name is Diane, and my question is, I come from the sales and marketing. I have no idea about the voice stuff. So if I show up and I want to learn more about the tactical, I guess that would be the area.
Yeah.
Am I going to be building something from scratch through the voicedesigner.com? Is that what we're going to be doing?
So let me see. Thank you. So you'll do that and a lot more. And we'll do, like Dan said, we'll do it around what makes the most sense for you. So we'll have workshops.
I'd like to do some homework before I show up.
Yeah. So there'll be some stuff on blueprints. You've probably heard blueprints mentioned. You've probably heard Google templates mentioned. You've heard voice flow. And there's a lot of other companies here that do similar things. And so what we want to do, I don't know if you're going to say this or not, but why don't you say what you need to say, and then I'll add on top of that.
So it was to the point of there was people from every level, right? Yeah. And what we did with the skills, which was really cool, was there was people that had no idea even what they wanted to have their skill about. Right. And we were literally creating podcasts on the spot. Like we were sitting there, I brainstormed with someone of like, what do you enjoy? Like, what do you love doing? What do you want to put out there? Right. And it wasn't necessarily, it didn't have to be about their business or whatever it was, but it was the fact that we could put something concrete down. They could literally record it and publish it. And I mean, there was people like freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm on Spotify, like, 20 minutes later. And now they have, again, they may not keep that thing going, but they knew how to do it now. And now whatever they're going home with, whatever their project is, whatever their business is, then they can tackle. And it was the idea of not just, people talking and putting up slides. It was physically acting and doing something. And like I said, that's that momentum. So even if you don't know what where you want to start, what you want to do, how you want to implement it, there'll be a lot of people there that you'll get ideas from, and then you'll be able to actually be a practitioner at it, even if that changes, right? It's not I did this, now I can't pivot or do anything else, right? And I think that's one of the, again,
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And I'll just add on to that. So everyone is really well intended because there's a lot of tools. Like I'll use web design as an example. There's Shopify if you're an e-commerce merchant. There's Wix, WordPress, Squarespace. And everyone is really well intended in using these tools because everyone in the whole building is capable of building something spectacular within those tools. It just comes down to how much time do you have. And when you only have so much time and you have all these other responsibilities, you will hit kind of like detours and blockers in any tool, no matter how well designed it is. And so what we try to do at Data Driven Design, and the Nashville Voice Conference is like one of the ways we do it, is like get in front of someone like you and say, okay, like, here's all these tools, we know how to use them, and we're talking voice specifically at the voice conference, but like, what are you trying to do or what do you want to do? And let's get you past that sort of blocker that you're having within this tool and or let's try to like hit the tool head on, try to do something that you want to do, hit the blocker, teach you how to get past it. Because if you only have an hour to do something in a day that you've dedicated to it and you can get past that blocker, then you'll come back the next day. But if you don't, then you're more likely to kind of not stop trying and maybe have to spend more money.